Welcome to the Dealmakers podcast. The Dealmakers is a platform for leaders in the commercial real estate industry to share their personal stories, business insights, and industry secrets because we believe in spotlighting the real people behind the deals. This podcast is brought to you by Agora, a comprehensive real estate investment and management platform offering a wide range of services to enable real growth and provide the best real estate investment experience both for GPs and LPs. I'm Asaf Raz. Let's go.
And today with me, I have a very special guest. They also are customers of Agora as well, which is super cool. So I'm excited to have this conversation. And today with me, and again, if I don't pronounce it as I should, please let me know. Dale Wills.
That's correct.
That's Dale Wills. So Dale Wills is from Centra Capital Partners, or actually the owner and founder of Centra Companies, a Twin City-based real estate development organization. They are a real estate syndication company partnering usually with accredited investors to build wealth in ground-up communities. Since 2001, he's overseen the development of over 1,500 homes across 50 communities, totaling more than $500 million in project value. Dale, please take it away. Tell our audience about you more so they get to know you, and we'll take it from there.
Asaf, thanks for having me. I've got a background in real estate and banking. I had a little time that I did some retail and realized I love real estate better than anything. But it's a pretty broad variety, which has helped me to have the skill set I have, having worked in banking, mortgage banking, development banking, construction lending, worked for a national home builder across the United States at one time. And now we've got Centra Companies that we do land development, we do apartment complex for sale housing, Centra Capital Partners, which is a real estate fund that people can co-invest with us to build wealth themselves.
That's super awesome. So let's take it one step back. What got you into this field? I mean, you've been in Centra Companies for almost 14 years now, but what really got you into this? What got you excited about real estate? Let's get our audience going a little bit.
I did early on, I did some construction, actual hands-on of building houses.
Okay.
Then I went and worked in banking for a period of time, doing mortgage banking, construction banking, development banking. And I just loved the industry. And as I mentioned, for a period of time, I went and did retail. And that was probably the most powerful change for me is, I enjoyed the retail. We were super successful at it. But I realized I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to have an impact on lives. And real estate, you can really do that. If you think about, where are most your formidable memories? Hopefully they're positive ones, but you learned to ride a bike in the neighborhood. You sat around the table having dinners with your family in your home. You went down the street to the movie theater, watched a movie with your family. And in real estate, we create the environment for those memories. And I think, what can you do that can have such a tremendous impact? And so we're creating something cool. We can look back and say, I had something little to do with that. And so that's what thrills me. So I left retail and said, I'm coming back to my roots and what I love.
I love that. That's really awesome. And also, having that, I think that's pretty unique, like having that hands-on experience and the knowledge of literally how to build both the structures themselves and the communities around them is something very unique. And I'd love us to have a little bit more of a conversation about that as we continue with this episode. But let's start with some of the basics, right? Why are you in this? What are those kind of top benefits of investing in real estate, both for, I would say, you, but also your LPs, especially in the current economic environment? I think it's a useful topic to kind of talk about, to make sure that our audience kind of understands this, because we're getting different opinions about the industry right now, different opinions about what's currently going on and what's the current economic environment. So I think it would be interesting to get your take on this and what's going on right now, and why is it actually a good asset class to invest in today?
I think, I've been in the business for pretty much in some fashion, other than a couple of years, my entire adult life. And I've been through the ups and downs. We had a recession in the early 90s and in 2000s, we had 2008. And in every case, there's opportunities to make a lot of money. And you've just got to be able to find that. We made a lot of money in 2010, 11, 12, 13, when a lot of people were sitting on the sidelines trying to figure out what to do and waiting for something to change. One of the greatest examples I like is if you look at interest rates in the United States, in the 60s, they were really relatively low. The 70s, they started to climb. They continued to climb in the 80s. We were seeing interest rates in the high teens and low 20s in many cases. And then they started to come back down in the 90s. So if you think about that, we see people all the time that say, well, I'm going to wait for the market to change. I'm going to wait for interest rates to come down. I'm going to wait for whatever it is, fill in the blank. Think about those people in the late 60s, early 70s. They said, I'm going to wait for the market to change. I'm going to wait for interest rates to come down. They sat and waited for over 2 decades for the market to change. How much wealth did they miss out on? How much wealth did people make in real estate because they continued to look for opportunities? So I'm a firm believer there's always opportunities. You'll find what you're looking for. And if all you're looking for is interest rates are high, prices are too high, that's what you're going to find. However, if you're looking for opportunities, you're going to find opportunities in real estate. The opportunity we're seeing right now, the greatest opportunity is first-time for-sale housing and built-for-rent communities. You know, we've done apartments. Right now, we're kind of sitting on the sidelines watching that market before we jump back into it. We're going to jump back into it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But today, we're seeing greater opportunities in for-sale housing, and that is interest rates have gone from a lot of people, you know, we're at 3 plus or minus 3%. Now, today's recording, we're plus or minus 6.5% for a mortgage interest rate. We also have houses that have appreciated 25 to 100% in the last 5 years. So all of a sudden, you have all of these people that can afford significantly less house because the houses are more expensive and the interest rates have doubled on them. Well, they still want to buy a house. So what do you do about that? You've got to create an affordable product. And so if you can have an affordable product, those buyers are going to buy. Right now, in our communities that we're doing for sale housing in, everything we build is on speculation, meaning we don't have a buyer for it. We don't start selling it until we start framing it, meaning we've got 60 days or less from the time we say this house is available to the time it's finished. We have finished one house in the last 8 months before it was sold. Everything we're building right now is selling because there's a market out there for affordability. That's the market we see today. What's the market going to be in 2 years? I don't really know, but there's going to be a market and there's going to be an opportunity to make a lot of money. And I think that's just key. You got to find opportunities.
Okay, so let's talk about this one, okay? Because on one hand, we're talking about increase in interest rate, increase in labor cost, increase in construction cost, increase in insurance costs. It's nationwide. It's not something that is just relevant for one area or one state, right?
Yep.
And with that, you're saying, wait, there's a market for affordable housing, okay? That is there's a gap in understanding there, I think, for most people as to how does these two coexist in deals that you're doing right now.
Well, I like to look at it. You have a funnel, and you know the funnel at the top is the widest, and the further you go down the funnel, the narrower it gets. And so, if you say, okay, how many people could afford a house at say $300,000 at 7%? And then how many people could afford $400,000 at 7% or $500,000? That funnel gets narrower and narrower and narrower. Now, if we took that same funnel and said, how many people could afford $300,000 at 3%? The top of that funnel just got a whole lot wider.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're working at the top of that funnel, there's always people there. It's just how wide is that funnel? But no matter how you look at it, it's the top of the funnel. It's the widest opportunity there is to be had in housing. And so we're working at the top of that funnel. And 5 years ago, we offered a lot of features and benefits in houses that people could afford. They wanted fancier kitchens and fancier master bathrooms. Well, today they just want a house. The ultimate amenity on for sale housing is price. Whereas 5 years ago, the ultimate amenities were fancier kitchens and master bathrooms.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. That also reduces the cost of labor, materials, etc. That's pretty cool. So let's talk about this specifically. I know I mentioned two examples, but what are some, considering interest rates and inflation, what are some of those effective cost control measures that you're taking in your own, doing your own deals or in your own developments?
A lot of what we can do, we have changed things that we have control over. I can't control interest rates. Yes, I can negotiate a better deal with a bank for institutional debt. There's things I can negotiate, but we really focus on what can we control. So an example will be when we go in and do a subdivision, we're a really very boring builder, meaning you can't come in and, okay, here's all my carpet options, here's my paint options, here's my cabinet options. We build the exact same interior every time. The cabinets are the same on every house. The carpet's the same. The paint is the same. What that does for us is it gives us the ability to go in and work with those suppliers, say, I've got a subdivision, we're building 100 houses. All of them are going to have the same carpet. What kind of deal can you give me when I'm buying it in bulk like that? The subcontractors make a lot less errors. So if I'm the carpet company, I can give you a little better price because I know we're never going to make a mistake and put the wrong carpet in because it's the same carpet on every single house. Well, you take that and you have just a little bit of savings here and there with every single supplier and subcontractor. All of a sudden, we have a really efficient machine. And some people say, well, that's really boring. I don't want to walk into my neighbors and the house is the same. Yeah, that's a little boring, but would you rather own a house that's a little bit boring that you can eventually paint the walls a different color than your neighbors and you are going to decorate it and put different pictures? Or would you rather just be sitting in an apartment that's equally as boring because they all look the same too? And, ultimately, buyers want to buy a house and then they can customize it to what their style is.
That's really cool. And again, I think it's a shift. It's a big shift in also how developers think, right? So I remember, let's say 3 years ago, when you went into building multifamily, especially in those specific locations where it's supposedly booming, right? So people went into building multifamily, and what they focused on mostly was the amenities. People were expecting to get these amenities. I want a doorman. I want someone, a concierge or someone at the reception to take care of me. I want to have cleaners throughout the building all day long. I want to have meeting rooms and a fully equipped gym, right? And they focused so much on providing that kind of value to the communities where they actually didn't realize that the value is the house itself. So when interest rates went up, these amenities didn't make no one cared. People can't afford rent that goes up so much in order to cover the cost of the developer. So what we're seeing is those some of them were considered grade A, for example, multifamily buildings are not considered grade B because they have all those fancy amenities, but no one can pay the rent. And if no one can pay the rent, no one can, the developer can continue to hold the deal, right? So there's this, I think that this shift is something that it feels like you have been able to pinpoint this really early on within the shift in the market and make those changes throughout your business. Am I making sense?
Yeah, we did. COVID kicked in and it was like all hands on deck. What are we going to do? If every deal we have cancels, how are we going to navigate this? And we had, then 60 days later, we had the opposite meeting. Prices are going up. Everything we have is for sale. Our hair's on fire. What do we do? And in both cases, we pivoted very, very quickly. And I would say that's one of the advantages of being a small company is we have the ability to pivot quickly. Great example is COVID, as we're talking for sale housing in a lot of these conversations, we couldn't have model homes open and we couldn't have people meeting with buyers. It was within 48 hours, we put video camera doorbells on all of our models. We put electronic door locks on all of our models. We put a camera in all of our kitchens. We put a cleaning station in all of our kitchen. And you'd ring on the doorbell. We would greet you there. We would see your face. You'd walk into the kitchen. There would be a TV. You would see us on the TV. We would see you. We would interact with you. Go visit the house. Come back. We'll answer questions. Oh, by the way, there's a station that you can clean your hands if you're concerned. There's extra masks, whatever. And we also figured out how to take them all the way through the process. We had buyers that closed. We'd never seen their face, ever. Wow. They would walk through the homes and we would do it through FaceTime or Zoom or some other technology. Everything was done electronic signatures. I didn't do this. I've got a team that's really smart. They figured out and they implemented this within 48 hours. And that's the great thing about being a small company is you just figure out, okay, what is the difference? Well, today, we changed all of our house plans about a year and a half ago because we said, it's the first time buyer. That's who's buying today. That's where the greatest opportunity to make money. So we altered our business plan very quickly. And that's what, I think one of our greatest strengths is that we adjust fast.
Yeah, and I think this is really cool because again, I remember this was like an all-in type of market, right? People would come in, raise money from investors, raise debt for honestly, it was virtually zero, right? You didn't have to pay almost any interest on it, right? Everything was cheaper. So people went all in and they would get these 400, 500, 600 unit buildings where when you want to shift, when COVID comes in, or if you want to shift when interest rate goes up and you want to do it quickly, you can't because you need to buy 600 cameras, 600 cleaning stations, 600, like have people, it's crazy. It's just crazy. So I like how you worked with kind of this flexibility where other developers just can't do that, right? It's just too difficult for them, which is pretty cool. So how do you do that and stay flexible and lean? And you call it small, but I call it just like maybe smart, right? But how do you do that and continue to grow your company?
That's really is a tricky thing. How do we, as you grow, you've got to have systems in place. We can't succeed without procedures. This is the best practices. This is what we have learned in bringing new people in and training them, but then having the balance and say, and at any given moment, we might need to throw that all out the window. And I think a lot of it is cultural. One example is we don't have a policy manual in the company. And the reason is when I say policy, that's inflexible. We have guidelines. Guidelines are flexible. Policies are not. So we don't have policies in the company because we want you to have the ability to have that flexibility to say, this doesn't make sense in today's climate. This doesn't make sense with these circumstances, and have that flexibility. And so we really try to incorporate that culture of flexibility, the culture of let's hire really, really fantastic, smart people, and then have the flexibility, let them make good decisions. I hope that all of our team knows that if they make a decision I disagree with, they're not going to get chewed out. We're going to sit and talk about it. Why'd you make that decision? And I'll share with them what decision maybe I would have made. And then we support them in the decision they made, and we own that decision. And I think it's really culturally is the difference. If I go to you and you make a decision and I come and scream at you and say, what did you do that for yourself? That was terrible. Well, you're never, ever going to make a decision again that's outside of the guidelines of the company.
That's really cool. And unique. And I think anybody who's listening to this and you're running a development company, syndication, a fund, whatever you're doing right now, I'll also share myself. I run a team of now 8 people, right? And I think the hardest part for me was to let them do what they do, right? And sometimes when you own your things and you're responsible is the hardest thing to do because mistakes will happen because that things are not going to always go as if you would do them with your hands, but you just can't do everything. I think that's a really cool approach to generally building a company. And I like how you're implementing it with your team. Honestly, I'm taking some for myself. If you may, I'm going to steal some of your ideas to build those.
What you
guidelines.
Say, I don't think is unique to any entrepreneur. I don't know an entrepreneur that wouldn't say what you just said. And I struggle with this personally. And one of the things I take is there's a John Maxwell. He's written several books, does a lot of speaking. And he in one of his books, he said, one of the rules I take is if somebody on my team can do it 70% as good as me, that's good enough. Let them do it. And he speaks on stages to thousands of people. He says, nobody can captivate an audience like I can at 70% as good as I do. Therefore, I don't delegate that job. But if somebody else can do it 70% or better than me, then I delegate that job. And so I remind myself of that a lot. And then sometimes you realize they actually can do it 100% better than me. They're better at it than I am. Exactly. But it's really hard to let go of that and say, yes, I can't grow if I'm doing everything. I've got to trust my people. And that's a hard thing to learn, I think.
That's really cool, Dale. That's really cool. Okay. I'm going to go back to real estate so we don't miss out on the audience because they probably either know this or they're learning from the episode. So that's pretty cool. But let's talk a bit before. So I have one more question to cover and then we'll do something we do every episode. We call this a shameless plug. I'll explain in a second. Let's talk a little bit about the future, right? And I think, everybody likes to talk about the future. Everybody likes to be the next oracle of, hey, this is what's going to happen in the industry in the next 2 years. You got to be prepared for this. Like, no one actually knows. Okay. For example, I had a conversation with one of the guests. He's like, no one knows if there was a black swan event already or it's coming. No one can predict that. It's only when you look back, you're like, okay, this was a black swan event. We just didn't realize that, right? So what is your personal outlook in terms of the real estate market for the rest of this year, going into 25, 26, in terms of the trends that you're seeing, some of the best opportunities for growth? What are some things that your personal opinion around the changes and shifts in the industry?
Right now, we're seeing for sale housing. We talked about entry level, build for rent communities. Those that aren't familiar, you go in and you build all 100 homes. You keep all 100 of them, turn them all into rentals. We see real opportunity there. We see very soon, based on current trends, that there's going to be some real opportunity in multifamily, some potentially distressed stuff that we're seeing out there.
Yeah.
Lots of people are speculating on office. That's one I just don't know well enough that we're jumping into that game today.
Yeah.
We're waiting to see what happens. But depending on where you are in the country, there's opportunities in all asset classes. You just have to look for them. And, what does the future hold? You're exactly right. Two prime examples are, we've got Trump and Harris are both running. Well, Trump's talking about extending the tax that they did in 2016. Well, if that extends opportunity zones, we're going to see some real opportunities in opportunity zones that we didn't grab last time. If Harris wins and she gets the 25% tax on unrealized gains, well, that's going to create a totally different set of opportunities. And so I think the key is just watch what the markets do, be nimble. Right now we're not jumping into asset classes that we don't see an exit strategy that is a long-term. If you're, to your point, you go build an apartment complex that's 600 keys, by the time you get that thing built and stabilized, the market could change 3 times.
That's really cool. I like that. And then I think it also shows the difference between those, I would call those like heavy hitters or, huge developers that honestly maybe also can take those risks because of how much they have in their pocket and how many years they've been doing this. But honestly, like I'm scared of this. When I see a new developer right now buying a multi of 400, 500, 600 units, I always ask myself, like, how is he doing this? Where is the money coming from? Like, there's no way this deal is calculating properly right now, unless it was super distressed. And I still didn't see, again, maybe I'm not seeing the market well, but I haven't seen a 600 unit distressed multifamily being sold for under the market value.
And 2 years from now, you'll be able to look back and say, I'm validated. Yes, they didn't, they failed. Or 2 years from now, you look back and go, I wish I knew what they knew, because they were.
I wish I did that. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So we talked a lot about you and about what you're doing right now with Centra Capital. Honestly, I wanted to ask you what differentiates you from other syndicators in the market, but I think we already realized that like you're very unique in the way that you're keeping yourself nimble. You shift and move a lot very flexibly to the market, and you do what needs to be done in order to make money for you and for your investors, which I think is pretty unique, right? And what I'll do is I'll take this opportunity to get you into what we call the shameless plug, which is essentially the last piece of every episode that we do, is where you shamelessly plug in exactly what you're doing today, what you're looking for, what opportunities you have within maybe your portfolio, and essentially what partners are you looking for today. We've had a lot of connections happen through those shameless plugs. So every guest would say, hey, I'm looking for investors, I'm looking for brokers, I'm looking for new properties, I'm looking for distress, whatever it is. And we've had these connections happen behind the scene, which is pretty cool. So this is your chance, as shamelessly as you can. What are you doing today? What are you looking for? This is your time.
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes us unique to add is our mission is we improve everything we touch. And that's everything. Whether it's the people we work with are better off as a result working with us, whether it's a community that we built some beautiful buildings, we put in new streets, whether it's helping our partners create wealth. If you're associated with us, our goal is you're better off as a result. So we improve everything we touch. And we've taken Centra Capital Partners, we started 8 months ago, and it started because we wanted to help our employees build greater wealth and take advantage of some of the same tax advantages I have as a self-employed. And that's how it all started, is we want to take care of our people and help them build wealth. Well, it's now blossomed into anybody that wants to. We only work with accredited investors and a minimum of $100,000 investment. We always, Centra Capital Partners, CENTRA, capitalpartners.com is our website of whatever opportunities we have on any given day, but we always have new opportunities because we're an ongoing concern. We've been doing this for years. We just decided this year that we're going to grow and allow people to build wealth alongside of us. And so anybody can go to that website and see the deals. Today we've got 2 for-sale housing projects. One's about 100 units, another one's about 50 that people are looking at, depending on the project, a 17.5 to a 20% IRR on their money. And it's a great way to you actually become an owner. You become an owner of real estate with a really great partner. I've got the best team there is. They know what they're doing. We have a track record of many years of doing this over and over. The difference is we now allow you to build wealth alongside of us. So somebody can come in, if we've got a project that's $2.5 million, they can invest the entire $2.5 million. Or they could say, I'm going to put 100,000 in this one and I'm going to put $500,000 in that one. And they could diversify even within what we're doing. We're really excited about it. And it's been really well received because you're involved in real estate. You can actually go see it. You can physically touch what we're building and you're changing lives by doing it. This is where people's homes are. This is where memories are created. And so I just love it. And we're excited about the future. We're going to be starting to do more in other markets as a result of this because the reception's been so well.
That's really awesome. So that's going to kind of conclude our episode. So I want to thank you so much, Dale, for joining me for another episode of the Dealmakers podcast and sharing your valuable insight and experiences with us. It was really enlightening to hear your perspective on what's going on in the real estate industry right now and specifically what you're focused on. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Dealmakers podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss the latest conversations with industry leaders. If you have any suggestions for future guests or topics, or if you'd like to be a guest yourself, please reach out to us via our website or the social media channels. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes as we continue to explore the stories behind the deals and the people making them happen. Thank you so much, Dale. I really appreciate it.